back. Let's go. Hockey's back tomorrow. We got the boys. We got Clarky, aka Clarky Snipes. We got Rib, and we got myself. We are hyped. We're looking forward to tomorrow. Let's crush the Canadiens. How are you guys doing today?
Je suis not Canadien. I'm doing great. You know what? I'm just hyped for the season tomorrow. I'm hyped that the Leafs are going to crush the Canadiens, and I'm hyped just to be with you guys and Maple Leafs media and Maple Leafs fans tonight.
Rib?
And one note to Maple Leafs media fans before I go on. Crush that like button. Like we're going to crush the Canadiens tomorrow night. You heard it here first. You think we're going to win? Show that support. It means the world to Maple Leafs media, and I can't wait for this NHL season to start.
We've got a little bit of a college theme in the comment section. Ron Keith says, "Go Leafs, go," and then we have "Go Canadiens." So we're gonna go back and forth here tonight. It's gonna be a fun show. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Your predictions, whether it's a score prediction or a player prediction, drop them in the comment section below. We'll get to predictions later in the day. First, we got some Maple Leafs news for you. So today, well, not today, but we have placed on waivers with the intent of sending these players to the AHL. Michael Hutchinson, Matt Marinson, Kenny Agostino, Nick Petan, and Callie Rosen. And that leaves Rasmus Sandin and Nick Robertson to at least make the taxi squad. So Nick Robertson, Rasmus Sandin, these are two names that personally I wanted to see in the NHL this year. Rib, how are you feeling about these two guys being at least on the taxi squad this year?
Well, on a side note, thank God Martin Marinson was sent down. That makes me very happy. And more talented players such as Nick Robertson and Rasmus Sandin prevailed. I think for these young players, it's going to be obviously a big step to even be around the big club as part of the taxi squad, even if they're not playing on a nightly basis. And I think it's going to do a lot for the development, just seeing how these true professionals really go in and game out. And I think ultimately, if they can get more game time, the better. But even just seeing how the John Tavareses and the Austin Matthews of this world do prepare will ultimately help them. What do you think, Clarky?
Shout out Away from Society. Shout out Brooke. Shout out Seth. Shout out Ron Keats. Just quick shout out to everyone commenting. Shoot your comments in. Hit the like button. Smash the sub button. But what do I think? You know what I think? Well, obviously you can look at Robertson's stats in the OHL, but even seeing him play in the scrimmage the other night, like this kid can fly. Obviously it was a scrimmage and we can't make too much about it, but wow, like he just looks like a skilled player. He looks like, he might not be that big, but his skill set's definitely ready for the NHL. And I think that having him on the taxi squad could prove to be very lucrative for the Leafs. Also, to touch on Hutchinson, I felt all three goalies that I watched in the scrimmage. What's Dell, right?
Aaron Dell.
Dell, Campbell, as well as Anderson. Like, I thought they all played actually pretty well. Obviously, Hutchinson, when he was coming in as our backup last year, I think we all had expectations that he could do a bit better than what he did. Bit of a disappointment, but, it's still good to have him in our system. And he's a really good guy, and I think, he still could develop a bit more. So, I'm happy with the moves, and I think the Leafs are going to have a great season.
Well, I'm super excited. I think that Rasmus Sandin, we haven't really talked too much about him. I think his potential is sky high. He's got that Swedish background, and as a defenseman, I really like what he brings to the table. As for Nick Robertson, we all know what he has. We all know the skill set that he has, the intensity that he brings to this team. I'm going to show a clip from the other night, the scrimmage. This is his wicked shot from the point.
And the pass in front scores! Wow, what a shot! Holy mackerel!
Did you guys see that? I didn't. It was just a rocket. Nick Robertson is unreal.
Ooh, baby, that's dirty. Does he
remind you guys of anyone? Like a player you've seen in the past that's come up through the O and has had a pretty good junior career thus far? Does he remind you of any players?
The
Go
way
ahead.
he works, the intensity that he brings kind of reminds me of a Jerome Iginla. And the shot that he has is like that shot is Austin Matthews-esque. I mean, it's an impressive shot.
Jerome McGinley, interesting comparison. Because obviously, I think the frame isn't going to quite allow him to play like that, but a smaller version of Jerome McGinley. That's interesting. I didn't even think of that comparison. I could definitely see that, though, with the grit and the determination. A guy that can step into a leadership role in the future as he gets on the team more. And let's not quite go too overboard yet to compare a shot to Matthews, but what we saw there is definitely room for a lot of promise, and he's going to have a top shot on these Leafs teams going forward, assuming he sticks with them.
I believe so as well. Clark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think both you guys bring up good points. I mean, he just looks like such a raw talent that I hope that the Leafs, I think the years of the Leafs having really good talent and it not amounting to anything are past them. I think that Robertson can be really coached well, and we can cultivate his skills, and he can really provide something to the Leafs. I think we just need to make sure that we help him develop in whatever way we need to. And we see, like with Kadri in the past, it took him a bit more to develop, but he did get there. But some could say that he never hit his full potential for the Leafs. So I think if we can, as an organization, ensure that we put Robertson in the best position to succeed, that's going to be big.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be very, very crucial to this organization's future success to see how we help Nick Robertson's development, because he is definitely a critical piece to our success in the future. I want to transition more into this rivalry game. I want to talk a lot about how the Maple Leafs can crush the Canadiens, because it hasn't always been so pretty in the last meetings between these two teams. I want to show, to start this, what John Tavares has to say about getting the season underway.
I think just excited get back at it another year, another opportunity to compete for the Stanley Cup. Obviously, we're excited about our group and what we're trying to achieve. So one day at a time, and then the first one that counts is tomorrow. So this rivalry is a lot of fun, a lot of history regardless. So it'll be a great way to start.
It is going to be a great way to start. It's always fun to watch Montreal, Toronto. What a way to kick off the season. I mean, you heard him there. This team has Stanley Cup aspirations. I believe it. This team can be a legitimate cup contender this year. What do you think, guys? What do you think of what John Tavares had to say?
I think that was probably a very good explanation of his constant professionalism. You can, in a way, I can see how it could be portrayed as boring because it's very matter of fact, to the point, doesn't show that emotion. But that is really what you need to deal with the Maple Leafs media. It would be nice to see a little bit more fire in him talking about a rival like the Canadiens, but I think just coming with the captain and he knows his role, you're not going to see that from him, but I feel like he feels that internally that he really does want to go get those Montreal Canadiens.
Clarky?
Yeah, I just to counter you there, Rib. I don't think JT is the type of guy to be screaming and shouting in front of the camera. It's just his personality. But I do agree with you. It'd be nice if he set the tone, really emphasizes intensity. But I'm sure we're going to see that tomorrow in his play. I think it's going to be a really intense game. And I think, he's setting the tone for the season. The Leafs need to have the aspirations that going to the playoffs is not a successful season anymore. Winning one playoff series is good, but they're there. We're all together, and we're cheering for them to win the cup. And obviously that might not happen this season, but that's the end goal. And whether that happens this year, next year, or never happens, we need to strive for that. And we need to ensure that that's what we're looking for at the end of the day. We can't have lower expectations and have the bar down here when it should be up here, especially with our squad. Vegas has us ranked 4th right now as a favorite. So I think that if you're ranked 4th by the betting gods, then you got to be hoping that you're going to the finals or winning the cup.
What do you think that bar is then? Is it going to the cup? Is that the bar they have to meet for you to consider it a successful season?
I'm not saying it's I'm not saying a successful season is only if they win the cup. But what I'm saying is that as a captain, when you're coming out at the start of the season, if you say, oh, yeah, we're hoping to win a playoff series this year, go to the conference finals, I think he has to set the tone that we're here to win a Stanley Cup. We're here because we have one goal in mind. And that's to hoist the damn thing at the end of the year. So, success or not, we could get into that. And I'm interested to see what some of the comments are, what Leaf fans consider a successful season. But I think as a captain, you really need to set that tone. And I think he nailed it there.
That was a great way to set the tone. And Reb, yeah, I mean, he seems like an even keel kind of guy. And just to get back to your point, he like always seems like that. He's just, we're not in the locker room, but he just seems like a lead by example, lead by what he does on the ice. But back to your point, Clarky, about what's a successful season. I mean, I think that you have to at least win 2 playoff series to consider this a successful season. Like one, it would be like checking something off the list. It's not really good enough. Once I get that one taste of a playoff victory, I'm gonna want more. And I'm gonna want more after that. I'm just gonna want to feed this appetite more and more. But we gotta at least win a playoff series first. That's the first goal. I think that we should have a checklist of goals, work our way up the list. I don't know. Let's see.
I could also agree with that because the Toronto Maple Leaf fan base, to give a parody to another sport, they really, really do remind me of a team I see in the NFL that recently just won a playoff game, the Buffalo Bills. And I feel like Toronto fans have also been long suffering. And once they get that taste of that first playoff series won in a while, they're going to want more. And you can't satisfy these fans.
Speaking of the Buffalo Bills, if you haven't already, check out my other channel on YouTube. It's called The Bills Bunker, and I love pumping out content for both the Bills and Maple Leafs. I like the comparison. It is very identical. I mean, it was over 20 years since the Bills won a playoff game, and they finally did it this year. We won the division, won a playoff game, and now we want to win a Super Bowl. That's transition to hockey. The Maple Leafs. You want to win a playoff series, then another, and then you want to host the Stanley Cup. That's how it goes. We got a bunch of predictions in here. Ron Keats says he wants nothing less than the cup. Absolutely, I agree. So let's continue talking about Montreal, Toronto, because Toronto plays against Montreal 6 times in the final month of the season. It's kind of spread out the first 4 games between these two arch rivals up until the final month when we play each other 6 times. What are you guys expecting to see in that final stretch of hockey? Clarky, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I think by the end of the year, it might be neck and neck with Montreal. I know last year Montreal kind of finished way stronger than we did, honestly, and so that could be the case again this year, where it comes down to a close ending, and both teams are battling out neck and neck. I mean, 6 games in the last stretch of things, like I think you said a month, like that's going to be really intense. And I think people are starting to forget, Montreal, Toronto is a classic matchup. You can't get much better than that in hockey, honestly. I mean, Montreal, Boston, because recent years Boston has destroyed us, and I think a lot of the Leaf fans have gained more of a hate for Boston. But I think we all know that there's going to be blood between Montreal and Toronto. It's going to be a rough series, and it's going to be an intense one. Both teams aren't going to give each other an edge, so I think it's going to be great to watch. And tomorrow night, it's going to be the start of it. It's going to set the tone. So, you know what? Go Leafs, go.
Rib?
Back to Clark's point, I really like the idea in an ideal world with the Canadian division of 2 first-round playoff series: Toronto, Montreal, and Calgary, Edmonton. I think those would be an NHL dream and a hockey fan dream. And I think that Montreal will be very close to potentially surprising some people making the playoffs come near the end of the season. So those 6 games may not be make or break for the Leafs as far as making the playoffs, but that could very much decide the seeding if they do win the division or if they're 2 or 3 seed. And that could decide if Montreal, in fact, makes the playoffs. So I think those games you might even see get tougher and tighter down to the wire than even the games in the earlier battles of the season now. And I think that it will be some of the best individual game-by-game basis that you will see as a Leaf fan throughout the season is those games at the end of the season versus Montreal, if there is a lot on the line.
Yeah, I mean, even if there's not a lot on the line, these teams are always going to be trying to play spoiler for each other. They absolutely despise each other. Gallagher, Matthews, Tavares, they got to hate each other. It's Toronto, Montreal. This rivalry stems longer than our lifetime. Like, it's gone on 100+ years, and this rivalry, it's so historic. It's one of the best in sports, and I think it's the best in the NHL. Toronto, Montreal this year in this Canadian division, it's going to have that extra bit of intensity, and playing each other 6 times in the final month of the season. It's going to be very. I'm trying to find a very good descriptive word for this. It's gonna be intense, I guess. I don't know. It's gonna be very, very intense.
If you look back to in history, I think the only fair comparison to even remotely begin to understand what playing the Canadian teams as often as they will be is look back when the NHL only had the original 6 teams and how often they would play each other and how those teams would just develop a hatred and a lot of the rivalries that still carry over, like Toronto, Montreal. And for anyone in our comment section that was alive when the NHL was still the original 6, enlighten us. If you want to share us your thoughts about back what that was like, feel right free, go ahead. But I think that is the level of rivalries you'll start to see develop in this Canadian division. And I think back to what Matt Stajan alluded to the other day, these Eastern teams are going to see a lot more of these Western Canadian teams, and that could create some more interesting new rivalries.
Yeah, I think to add on your point there, I was watching the scrimmage the other night, and the commentator for Maple Leafs TV, he made that point. He's like, back in the original 6 days, you're playing the same team a lot more, and there's a lot more rivalries. Obviously, you're playing Detroit, Boston. You saw some really great matchups, and that's how these rivalries, obviously a little more special between the Leafs and the Habs, but that's how all these rivalries existed. And I think you're going to play more games against the same team. You're bound to have more bad blood. You're not going to become more friends after you play more games with them. You're going to have more bad blood. There's going to be more fights, more hits, more injuries, more goals. It's just going to be the nature of the season. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And I also like the point you made about we're going to see Toronto play at Calgary, and Edmonton, and Vancouver. Those are going to be interesting matchups because we only usually see that once or twice a year. And I don't really know too much. I know about the teams, but I never really watch them because I don't want to stay up late. But we got a 10:30 game and the Leafs are playing. You best believe I'll be up.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on in the comment sections. I see your predictions. Keep them for the end of the show because we will be doing our predictions for this game and some for the season as well. I just want to talk about some other stuff about this game first. You can, as always, you can send in your trade offers. We'll get to as many as we can. We got a jam-packed show today. Make sure you smash the like button. Hit the notification bell. You'll be notified every time we're live here. And so, as I was saying earlier, Toronto, Montreal, it hasn't really gone Toronto's way. We've lost the last 4 consecutive meetings against the Montreal Canadiens by a total score of 19-13. I'm expecting this to change tomorrow. Clarky, you think this is going to change tomorrow? Don't give your score prediction yet, but do you think this is going to – tables are going to turn a bit?
I think so. And, you make an interesting point because I was watching the scrimmage too again the other night and I saw the stat that Anderson actually has a really good record against Canadian teams, but I guess Montreal is not included in that. So Montreal has our number, and there's no sense in denying that. So the Leafs, that gives them one more motivation where it's not a must-win. It's the first game of the season, but this is a game that you really want to win to set the tone for the season and also against an opponent that's been beating us lately. So I agree that the Leafs will turn the tide, but it's going to be a tough game, and we can't downplay how good Montreal can come out.
I would disagree with you there, Joe. I think to what extent a season opener could be a must-win, this is as close as you're going to get. This is setting the tone in a Canadian division for a team you're going to see plenty of times throughout the year, and an original 6 hated rival. If the Leafs come out flat tomorrow and lose that game, I really don't think that sets a good tone for the fans going forward. as Christine mentioned, or for the team as a whole, especially from a Montreal team that could surprise some people, but it's not like they're expected to finish second in the division right behind the Leafs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I just want to come out and get off to an early, quick start because the season's shorter and every game has more significance than it ever has in the past. But Joe Clarkey, you were talking about Anderson's career stats against Canadian teams, and I actually have those numbers for you right here. Against Canadian teams, 53 wins, 11 losses, 14 overtime losses, a 2.47 goals against average, and a 918 save percentage. So against Canadian teams, he's fared very well, and we all know that teams are always changing in the NHL, obviously. But sometimes you just have teams' numbers. Do you expect this to continue this season?
I would think that some of those numbers are slightly inflated, given the places that he played and the time periods he played in. Playing in Anaheim originally, he would have played against some very weak Edmonton teams when Anaheim was a very strong playoff team. And as well, I can speak from someone that watches Calgary as well. Anaheim always had Calgary's number. It didn't even matter if Calgary seemed to have a good team. They just could not play the Ducks well. And Frederik Andersen was part of that, but also the team in front of him. So I think those numbers are slightly inflated. And I think this season will obviously be the true deciding on if he really is good against Canadian teams when he sees them this often. I wouldn't put too much weight on those stats, given the limited number of games that he would have played against Western teams since coming to Toronto, and the fact that Montreal hasn't exactly been the best team in the world. The same with Ottawa over the past few years. But I do think it will bode well for at least his confidence off the bat, knowing that he's had good records against these teams.
Clarkey.
Yeah, I think, there's always a story behind stats. So I think, Rib, you really painted more of a story where some of those numbers may be a bit more inflated, and there's no sense in denying that. But still think when you have 30 more wins than losses as a goalie, you have a whole nation's number. I think that's still really great stats. And if he can keep that up, if he can keep having 30 more wins than losses, then that's going to mean a good season for the Leafs. So, definitely you have to take a bit away when he was on Anaheim playing some weaker Western teams, but I still think that it shows that he must have a bit of confidence playing some of these Canadian teams.
My question to counter that here, do you think Frederik Andersen is even aware that he has that record against Canadian teams?
I think he is. This was it was mentioned on the broadcast of the Blue and White. I'm sure he's heard it by now. I'm sure he's seen
it. Come on, he's gonna hear that.
So I want to give you my keys to the game. This is a new segment of the show I'm going to do every time we're on here before a game rather. And you guys, you can let me know your thoughts as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I made it a bit of a fun name. It's called Jake Keys to the Game. So Jake Keys to the Game. Number 1, don't be stubborn. What this means is, head coach Sheldon Keefe, don't be afraid to change up the lines. If Joe Thornton or someone on the upper lines, they're getting fatigued, don't be afraid to change it up. Don't be afraid to mix it up if something's not working. 2, control the crowd in front. Montreal is a very speedy team. They're not. I think that this team, the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, Wayne Simmons, Joe Thornton, we can be physical in front of the net. And if we are, that's a key to this game. Make the most of your chances. Make the most of your chances because you're playing against Carey Price. And that's the same reason that there's no shot that's a bad shot, because you need to get as many shots as you can against Carey Price. Make the most of every single opportunity you have. What do you guys think to the keys to the game here?
Clarkey, you go first.
I think that the don't be stubborn, that's a great point, because, it's the first game of the season, and we've all seen the lineups that Keefe's probably going to set for opening night, but, things may change. There might be adjustments that need to be made throughout the night. Some players might not be flowing together as well as if mix it up. So I think that, Keefe really needs to bring that to the table and make adjustments on the fly if needed during the game based on his observations and his assistant coach observations and any players. And I think, what I'm wondering is, do you think it's going to be a really matchup heavy game between like a Matthews line and like Gallagher and Tatar? Because I got Montreal's lines up here, and I don't know like what Montreal's lines are going to match up against the Leafs top lines. So it's going to be interesting to see, because I do think Toronto has a bit more firepower on the offensive end. But defense, they might have Weber on 26 minutes of the game. So it's going to be interesting to see. I like those points, though.
Just under here, we got a Habs fan, and he says, I'm a Habs fan, and from watching the scrimmage, Montreal ain't it. Their speed is gone. Ribs, what are your thoughts on my keys to the game?
I think, again, as you touched on, with no shot is a bad shot. And to not be stubborn to change up if things aren't working is extremely critical when playing against a goalie like Carey Price. Even if he isn't quite as dominant as he used to be a few years ago, Carey Price is still one of those goalies that is very capable of taking over an individual game on a game-by-game basis. And you best believe that in a season opener against an arch bitter rival like Toronto, he's coming with his A game. And he's going to be pumped up and have been waiting to get, because obviously NHL players have lived similar lives to all of us with the uncertainty that's going around. And for him to have hockey, something that he's familiar and comfortable with, to take his mind off everything and just focus on one goal at hand, I think Carey Price is going to come out and have a remarkable game tomorrow.
Oh, you can always count on that. Carey Price he's outstanding. He's just an outstanding professional. Got to give respect to him no matter who you cheer for. Shout out to Andreas all the way from Sweden. Shout out to him. Thank you for watching the channel. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't already, make sure you smash the like button, hit the notification bell. And I think this is a video I'm recommending for you specifically from Sweden. I have a video on this channel counting down the top 15 Maple Leafs of all time, and I think you'd really like the Borje Salming video. I want to continue with our predictions, our keys to the game for tomorrow's game against the Montreal Canadiens. So let's start off with some player predictions. But while we're doing that, I want everybody in the comments section to drop your score predictions and make sure you say the team that's going to win as well, because it could just be a 5-3 and we don't know. So drop your score predictions in the comments section. We'll post as many of them as we can. Rib, what do you have for your player predictions for tomorrow night's game against Montreal?
Austin Matthews with 2 goals and Carey Price with 40-plus saves. You heard it here first. Carey Price is going to play remarkable. I'm talking 40-plus saves. Final score, one of the goals will be an empty netter that the Leafs are going to score. And Austin Matthews will be the only one that's going to be able to solve them all night.
Okay. And for me, I've got a couple of them. I've got Wayne Simmons. He's 1 point away from a big milestone in his career. He's going to record his 500th career point, the Wayne train. I've got where'd it go? I've got Joe Thornton to have 2 assists, and then Joseph Clarkey. Do you have a player prediction for tomorrow?
Yeah, I got JT 2 goals. I think Montreal's not going to have an answer for him in front of the net. I think that's going to be garbage time for him. He's just going to eat. And he's just going to make the most of his opportunities. 2 goals against Price. Got to have a good night. So I think JT is going to come out firing.
Joe, to counter that, Clarkey, what the hell do you call Shea Weber then? Not an answer in front of the net?
He's over the hill. Shea Weber like 35, honestly. He had a big and bad injury, and I feel bad for him because he had a really bad injury. He was out a whole season. And before that, prior to that, he definitely was a top defenseman in the NHL. Hopefully he comes back strong. You never want to see even your greatest opponent to come back unhealthy. So hopefully he does come back strong and he has a good matchup against JT, but I think JT will make the most of his opportunities. I think he'll eat.
Well, I
That's
think
an
John
interesting take.
Tavares. Personally, I think John Tavares is going to have a hell of a season, and I'm just going to show the clip from the blue versus white scrimmage the other night because he looks like he's in mid-season form already. Goes down low, puts it top cheese. John Tavares, Johnny Toronto. We got some score predictions in here. You guys go ahead, talk about John Tavares.
I think that ultimately comes back to what Martin Biron highlighted earlier in your interview earlier this year about how John Tavares really does have that professionalism and cares about always being prepped and prepared for the game. Going back to when he was a young player in the New York Islanders and turning down glamorous events with celebrities to prepare and practice for a season for a team that wasn't all that great. I think now in Toronto, you're going to see that, especially with a shortened year, that Tavares is going to probably come in as a very well-prepared player, more so than other players in the NHL.
I got a comment here that I want to get to, but that is a great point because, yes, Martin Biron, he attested to it. John Tavares, at such a young age, he wouldn't go out 3 nights before a game. That's just an extremely great professional, and that was just a great thing, a great sign of things to come in his young career at that age. But this is the comment I want to get to. Arrested Carey Price is deadly, though. And you're right, and I think that the acquisition of Jake Allen is really going to help this Montreal team with Carey Price because Frederik Andersen had the 3rd most minutes played of all goalies in the NHL. Connor Hellebuyck, Carey Price were the only 2 with more. So arrested Carey Price is deadly. Arrested Frederik Andersen's also pretty deadly. I just got to say that because
it's not the same level. I agree with you, but it's not the same level.
No, it's not.
Would you say it's the same if you consider age, though?
I feel like goaltenders you can age better than other positions.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you can age better.
5-2 Leafs. Kenny Fraser thinks Joe Thornton will score the first goal of the game. I like it. That's a bold prediction.
Can you imagine the reaction if Joe Thornton does score the first goal of the game?
Well, won't be anything from the crowd, but it'll be we'll have something good for you on the post-game show. And if you haven't heard, there's a post-game show tomorrow night. I'll be here. I don't know if Rib or Clarkie will be here, but I promise you, I will be here tomorrow night after the game, Montreal Toronto. It's gonna be exciting. We got Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and TJ Brody to score 3-1 Leafs.
I'd love to see that we have fans of all teams in this fan base. We even have a proud Vancouver fan that really thinks they have what it takes. And I question his loyalties.
I want to talk more about season-long predictions. We talked about predictions for just tomorrow. But before we get into that, I also want to mention to everybody, because this is something that we've been doing for a long time on this show. Send in your trade offers. We'll get to as many as we can. Make them as juicy as possible. And we got some player predictions for the season. I've got a couple, but you can go first.
A really hot take that I want to see what Maple Leafs media, if they agree or disagree with me. But I think this is the season that Austin Matthews will finish the year with more goals than Alexander Ovechkin. One of the greatest goal scorers of all time. And Austin Matthews is going to score at a better pace than he will this year.
Okay.
Agree or disagree? Let's hear your voices in the comment, Maple Leaf media.
Clarkie, it looks like you got something to say down there.
I mean, I don't know how much of a hot take that is. I guess it is because it's like a milestone where he's passing the grade 8. But Ovi's 35. So, it's bound to happen either this season or next because the guy's getting older. I don't think he's going to have to drop off like Kovalchuk. When we saw Kovalchuk last saw him in the NHL, he was lighting it up. He comes back, and he's been absolutely horrible for the most part. So I think Ovi's going to be around, but I think it's a matter of time before we see Matthews take over as a scoring king in the NHL.
Well, I've got even more. If Alex Ovechkin wasn't already the leader of the NHL in your books, I've got Austin Matthews to lead the NHL in goals this year. I just think he's got a fire lit under him this year. An extra little spark from being robbed of that 50-goal season last year. He was 3 away, and he was just robbed because of the lockout, the pandemic. So I've got more predictions for you, though. I've got 2 more player predictions for this entire 2021 season. I've got Joe Thornton to have more points this season in less games played than he had last year. And the reason, he's really going to benefit from playing with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. Not just these guys. Even if he shuffled down the lineup, this team's deeper than San Jose was last year. And his line mates were Marcus Sorensen and Kevin LeBlanc. He put up 31 points with them, 24 assists, 7 goals. He's just going to have a much better surrounding team environment. And I think that it's inevitable for him to score more points than he did last year.
How many points do you think he finishes with, Jake? Make a prediction.
I'll say 35. 35 points is realistic. I don't think that he plays the full 56-game season either. I think that he's going to benefit this much, and his playmaking ability is still there. He can feed the puck like no tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that depends on, with Thornton. He's got the high hockey IQ. You plug him in the right situation, right line, he's going to produce. We got another prediction here. VC 20 goal mark. Mark my words. All caps. Pretty confident on that. What do you guys think of that?
Well, interestingly enough, my next player prediction it wasn't 20, but I've got Jimmy VC will match his career high of 17 goals. His career high was 17 goals. He's hit that plateau twice in 79 games played and 81 games played with the Rangers 2 and 3 seasons ago. I think that he'll get to 17, and obviously playing with William Nylander, John Tavares is going to benefit. I think he could hit 20. It's a possibility, but I'd expect him to start a bit slower. They still need to build more chemistry on that second line, VC coming into a new team. So I think 17 goals is very, very, very realistic for him.
I think I'm not buying the VC hype. I'm really not. I know you're extremely high on him, Jake, but I feel like I hope he proves me wrong. But my gut reaction is that this is just another player that Maple Leafs and Maple Leaf fans are putting too unrealistic expectations and hyping up prior to even seeing him suit up for the team. And I feel like a successful season for Jimmy VC may not be getting 20 goals or 17 goals. A successful season for Jimmy VC will be playing a critical third or fourth line role on a conference finalist team.
Yeah.
Well, Clark,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jake.
well, I think that I don't know. I just think that Jimmy VC he's set to have a great season this year, and I think that if I were to compare it to a move, I know it's a trade versus a free agency acquisition. We got Jimmy VC in free agency, but I think that the surprise factor is going to be similar to the JVR Luke Shen trade. I think that we were all kind of shocked to see how much JVR produced in Toronto. And I think that we're going to see the same shock factor with Jimmy VC this year.
Yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. We got another big, bold prediction from Christine here. She says Nylander will get career high in goals with 35 or 36 goals. I know that even from this show, there's a lot of haters of Nylander in Leafland. And I want to hear the opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think 35 to 36 goals? It's pretty high, but, he looked good in the scrimmage. He looks like he's worked in the offseason. He's looking sharp. That flow's dangling. Who knows?
If it was an 82-game season, I'd say yes. I don't think so in this 56-game season. Reb?
56 games, 36 goals. I don't think it's happening. 82, I'm with you. But 56, that just seems a bit high. I could see him just reaching 30. I'm not sure he gets more than that, though. 25 to 30 is probably more realistic expectation.
And Reb, Away from Society has a question for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Rib, why aren't you buying the VC hype? He's playing with John Tavares and William Nylander. You really don't think he can pot in goals with those fellas on his line?
I don't think he sticks on that line for much of the season. I think that's the deciding factor. If you were to skate with that line for the full season, I could see him reaching with 20 goals. But I really don't think he's going to end up sticking there. I think someone like Wayne Simmons will end up taking that spot. And I just don't see VC putting up that many goals on a lower line. He needs to be surrounded by that talent to have that chance. And I don't think he's going to warrant with his play to stick on that line.
Clarky, you got any thoughts on this?
I don't know. It's too tough to call. I think you guys both bring up two good points, two very contrasting opinions, but I think, it could go either way. You could see VC fit in that line perfectly and he has an amazing season. You could also see it just doesn't work and he gets bounced around. And I think a lot of times when you look at a player's stats, a lot of it is their skill, but it's also the situation. The situation is so important. The line mates you're playing with, how the coach plays your line, who you're matched up against is so important. So I think that really is going to dictate if VC has 20 goals or close to that this season.
I don't even think he gets to 20. I think 17, and I just think that he's gonna be playing with these two players, and they're gonna allow them to build the chemistry for a while. I don't think they're gonna go away from it too soon. And they've obviously liked what they've seen in training camp from Jimmy VC, or they wouldn't put him this high in the line.
And I think back to what I touched on earlier, what everyone seems to be overthinking, or maybe you're not, maybe you are thinking this, but Jimmy VC scoring 20 goals or 17 goals in a 56-game schedule, when that's what he's put up in an 82-game schedule.
Yep.
Heck, if he's playing a full 82-game season at a similar pace, that's almost up to 40 goals.
Yep, you're right.
Really don't think that's sustainable for him. Maybe he gets a hot streak the first few games, plus 3 or 4 goals. But to keep that going for a full season,
I think you're gonna be surprised. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by Jimmy VC. We got a question here I want to post up from Rusty Nails. Always in the comment section. I would like to see everyone's opinion on who will be the first Leaf to be traded this season. Will it be a surprise trade? Now, I have an answer for this, and it's not someone who I'd want to trade, but I think that the first player that we would look into trading, because of how much defensive depth we have, would be Travis Dermott. And it's an easy contract to move at $870,000 just for one season. And if he doesn't get much playing time this year in Toronto, which I think it's going to be tough for him to get much playing time, he might want out too. So I think that would be the first one. And I think that we have to trade a defenseman if we want to look at potentially bringing in more pieces later in the season. I don't think we have to necessarily. I think that they like this group that they have intact right now, but that's the name that comes to mind first.
yeah, I would have to agree to that. That Travis Dermott was one of the first names that jumped to me. And then as well, Justin Holl. One of the two of them I could see being the first Leaf moved. I think with all that defensive depth, and especially depending on how you see Lebanon play for the year and how Sandin continues to develop, one of those two guys could easily steal their spot, and it makes them redundant on a Leafs roster, especially if they can stay healthy, to the point where they may look at moving them for depth in another position or maybe just even draft capital.
Clarky.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys. As much as I want to make a headline or say something different, I have to agree with you guys. That's been majority of the rumors that I've seen, is that he's on the trading block and Leafs are looking to shop him around or be a player for the expansion draft. So I think that it's probably inevitable. Also if you're Dermott, he's pretty young still. He's like 23, and you're on a taxi squad. You're not getting much minutes. Like maybe he can go and be a 6th or 5th defenseman on another NHL team, and that's probably and maybe the best thing for his career.
And to back address the Jimmy VC, because Away from Society is back continuing this discussion, and I enjoy it because we do seem to be disagreeing on this. He's been on a third line, yes, but look at the teams he's been on a third line for. If you can't crack the top 2 lines on non-playoff teams like that, how do you expect to stick with a top 2 line on a supposed cup contender like the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially given some of the younger talent they have coming up. And you're going to tell me that if someone like Nick Robertson gets off to a good start and really decides to stick with this team, that they're going to play a Jimmy Vesey over him in a scoring role?
I'm gonna counter your argument and say that he's been a victim of circumstances playing in Buffalo and then the Rangers on bad teams. He's been on bad squads surrounded by bad players. I think that it's only gonna benefit him playing up on that second line with John Tavares and William Nylander. It remains to be seen. You've got a point there. It remains to be seen if he can stay up there. But personally, I think he can, and I think he's gonna have a big year.
I think my follow-up question to that then, and I'm curious to see what Away from Society says from this and what you and Clarky also have to say. Why do you think VC wasn't able to crack one of those top 6 roles on non-playoff teams and really even put up empty stats to a degree on a team that wasn't necessarily going anywhere? What was the reason that VC was not put in a bigger role on those teams where he could have potentially scored more? And what do you think is different in Toronto that's going to ensure that he can have the bigger role?
Well, I just think that he's got so many valuable assets, and you can look at just his physical. He's physically, he's a bigger guy, and that's something that we need on this team. So maybe he was being misused in those roles. That's something that you can look into as well. I think that putting him with these guys, he's gonna get a good chemistry going on that second line, and I think that he's gonna be able to push bodies in front of the net. He can stand up for people. He can fight. He can score. He's got a good shot. I don't know what's not to like about Jimmy Vesey.
Clarky, I need some help here, buddy. You gotta be our voice of reason at this point. Both of us are going to war.
You know what? I think we got to end this soon because this isn't the Jimmy Vesey show. I think we have to let the season play out and see how he plays tomorrow, see how the season starts out, how the lines fit. Because I think bringing it back to what Jake said earlier, Keith's really going to have to make adjustments if things aren't working. And if they are, then Vesey will slot in. And like Christine says here, he could be a surprise. And I just wanted to say, I forgot to say, I came up with this just now. My bold prediction for the season, and I hope this doesn't happen. If you're near wood, knock on it, because I really hope it doesn't happen. But no Leaf player will play a full season due to the circumstances right now. No Leaf player will play every single game this season. And I want to hear everyone's comments on that. Do you think that given what's happening right now, every player or one player can play every game of the season? I personally think it's just not going to happen. I'm playing fantasy and basketball right now, and I feel like every game I have to switch players around because there's health things. But that's my prediction. What do you guys think?
I think they will. I think there'll be some.
On another side note, there's one player, non-Leaf related, that I feel really bad for going into the season, given the circumstances, that could break a really historic trend that he's been on. And that's Keith Yandel, for playing as many straight games as he has and dressing up every single night. I don't know the exact number to quote me on, but I believe he's somewhere in the 800 straight games played. And to see something like that potentially come in risk for a player that's played in the league as long as him, I really feel bad for him. And to tie it back to the Leafs, I'm with Clarky on this. I don't see every single Leaf playing the full 56 games. And I think whether it be rest, whether it be shuffling lineups, whether it be the pandemic we're dealing with, I think you'll see some get close, but I'm not sure about every single game.
I think there'll be at least one or two that does. And I know it's a different season. There's pandemic, there's taxi squad. So you're going to want to rotate players in, even if your team's not infected with a virus, because you want to help the development of some of these younger guys. But I just think that some of them are going to complete the season. I mean, we've seen it in football. We've seen it in baseball. We've had players that had no positive tests. And that's even with close contact to players that did have positive tests. So I think that there's going to be some. I wouldn't expect everybody on a team to get infected. It's a legitimate possibility, but I don't really see that happening. There's a question here, or comment, I guess. Where'd it go? There's this one. What do you guys think of this? Gardner was the Leafs' worst defenseman ever. I think that's inflating it. What do you
I
think?
I think that's overhyping a few bad plays that Jake Gardner made at really inopportune times. And I feel like to a more casual fan and to a Leafs fan base as a whole, just really like bagging it onto one player and blaming past playoff failures on one player, you're going to look at Jake Gardner. But to say that he's the worst Leaf defenseman, look at some of the other defensemen that have been on the Leafs roster. You have Martin Morency. How do you even put Jake Gardner in the same conversation? He's a good puck-moving NHL defenseman. Yes, he makes mistakes, like anyone else in the league at different points. But to say that he's the worst defenseman that has ever played for the Leafs, I don't think you could say that about most players.
I think
And he wouldn't be in the league for as many games as he has been if he was. And yes, to the previous comment you pulled up about being a good offensive defenseman who played bad in critical moments, my point exactly. There's a few critical moments that he misplayed, and he will forever be haunted by that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple names that come to mind. Cody Ceci, hello, Cody Ceci, negative 58 plus minus in his career. That guy. There's a lot of names that come to mind. I'm not gonna point these people out. I'm not gonna do that. But Jake Gardner, he definitely got a lot of heat, and I get that he kind of his play declined in big time moments. We saw costly turnovers numerous times in Game 6, Game 7. It's unfortunate, but I think that Jake Gardner was very valuable in the regular season.
Yep. I think, he was probably one of the better skaters we ever had as a defenseman. He was an amazing skater. Oh my gosh. You see him fly up and down the ice and he'd go with the rush, but he did make a couple really critical mistakes for the Leafs in the playoffs. And it almost seemed like kind of the same thing happened year over year. So I had to agree with what they did and ship him out. And, he needed to go. But I wouldn't go as far as saying that he was the worst defenseman on the Leafs ever. I think we also set really high expectations for him. Like a lot of other Leaf players that didn't live up to them, our expectations for Gardner were so high, probably.
And given this, I just had to go pull up a few stats and go search up Jake Gardner stats. How can you say that a defenseman that got 52 points in a season was the worst defenseman ever to play for the Leafs? Whatever you think of his defensive prowess, that is an elite number to get from the back end of production.
Let's put it this way. Last season, I would have loved to have Jake Gardner back on the Maple Leafs. Question here from William Bennett, and this is a question I really like. Who do you guys think wins the Rocket? The Rocket is a trophy. For those that don't know, it's a trophy that is awarded to the player who scores the most goals in a single season. So who do you guys think is the Rocket winner? Is this going to be a Leafs bias here?
Jake, are you sticking with your earlier prediction? Because if you're sticking with that, we know your answer.
I got Austin Matthews winning the Rocket Richard Trophy this year.
I'm going to go a little off, well, not really off the board, but I'm not going to continue the Leaf bias to spice it up a bit. Like I said, I think Matthews outscores Ovechkin, but I think there's one guy that's going to outscore both of them, and that's Nathan MacKinnon.
Okay, yeah, he's going to benefit from that division he's playing in, too. Clarky, you got a prediction for us?
That's a solid pick, Rip. Can't rip on that, but I think I said in one of our earlier shows, I think Austin's taking it. I think he's a snipe show. He's the real deal. And to go with what you said, Rip, I think he's taking over Ovi's king as a scoring in the NHL. And I think he's going to get the Rocket this year.
Ooh, I do love that, though, in the comments from Donnie with Stamkos. That's also echoed later on.
It would be a nice, it'd be a nice story to see Stamkos come back and win that.
Yeah, I really want to see Stamkos have a nice bounce back year. I'm also a little biased, as anyone that watched our fantasy draft saw that I picked Steven Stamkos in the second round. And then in my other fantasy leagues, in all of them, I own Steven Stamkos at this point. So a bounce back year would both be a good story to see, and I would potentially benefit from it in fantasy. And I think when you have a player of that talent and that caliber, as we've seen with Steven Stamkos, looking at all the injuries he's had to go through, you can't help but feel bad for the guy. Because when he has been able to dress, he performs.
He did win a cup, though, so that obviously wasn't on playing, but they won a cup, so you got to make him feel a bit better.
We got more coming in here. McDavid, Pasternak. Matthews also benefits from a potential high-scoring Canadian division.
I would like to come back to that comment with the high-scoring Canadian division because I'm really curious to hear what your guys' takes are on this because I've been battling back and forth in my mind because everyone seems to think that this Canadian division is going to be all this high-octane, constantly high-scoring division. But you're also looking at some pretty strong goalies in this division. You've got Carey Price, Frederik Andersen, Jacob Markstrom, Connor Hellebuck. You've got Thatcher Demko and Braden Holtby, which I think between the two of them, one of them is going to have a good year, and that's going to be the Vancouver starter. You've got some really solid goalies. Yes, you've got Edmonton that I don't really think has an answer. And you've got Ottawa with Matt Murray, which will remain to be seen if the team in front of them is going to be good enough to pull through for that full year. But you really do have some high caliber goalies in this Canadian division. And I'm not sure it's going to be quite as high scoring as everyone thinks.
Well, I don't think it's going to necessarily be like, I don't know. I'd expect like your average scores, like a 4-3, 5-3 kind of score frequently because yes, these are really good goalies, but there is so much young talent that can score in this division. You got so much in Calgary, Vancouver. You have Pettersson, you have McDavid, Draisaitl in Edmonton. You have Laine, Stastny in Winnipeg. You have Matthews, Marner, Tavares over here. You got players who can score in Montreal, and then Ottawa. Kachuk's coming up, and it'll be interesting to see what the rookie does.
And I think William Bennett echoes my point perfectly when he's saying that Canada has 6 out of 7 great goalies, and I would agree with that.
I got to counter that, though. I have to counter that and say we're in a season of extraordinary circumstances. We don't know what can happen. 6 or 7 goalies might not be able to play every game. So a lot of this season, and I think this goes back to the point where squad depth will come into play. And you might have a night where, 2 or 3 good goalies are out. You never know what could happen. So I think that could add to the scoring and high scoring, crazy games a bit more. I do have to agree with you guys saying that we have really great starting goalies, but it's remains to be seen what's actually going to happen with this season. None of us know.
On a more comedic note, do you think there is any realm of possibility where the Leafs are involved in another fiasco where they lose, maybe not perhaps to a Zamboni driver again, but to an emergency goalie with no previous experience?
No.
That's
not going to happen this year. I think that the taxi squad, they'll probably be at the games or something. I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but I don't really see them having a Zamboni driver come in for a game again. I don't want to talk about that though. Let's not talk about that day again, please. There's a question I wanted to get to up here. I just gotta find it here. I don't know where it went, but you guys, we got some score predictions to go on this show here. We got our score predictions coming up. So let's just do it. Clarky, you have a score prediction for tomorrow night's game?
I saw a bit. I think Trode had this score prediction. I think 6-2 Leafs. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be 2-2, and Leafs are just going to blow the back door open. You're going to see Marner score 1. You're going to see Matthews score 2. You're going to see JT score 2. And I think you're going to get a random goal for the heck of it. I know we've been talking about him, and there's a lot of argument. VC's going to get a goal. Why not? Why not? So
nice.
I think it's going to be a 6-2 game. Again, though, and I think you got to echo this point, and there's been some comments here recently, that, this is going to be a close season, and every game is going to be a battle. So as much as I'm saying 6-2, I have to admit that Montreal is going to come out just as hungry as the Leafs. So it's going to be a great game to watch. I'm really excited to see.
Rib, what do you got?
3-1 I'm going to make a few predictions here that all tie into this. So I'm going to say it's 2-1. Leafs get an empty netter to make it 3-1. Carey Price comes out with 40-plus saves and plays fantastic. where the score should be much higher than it ends up being. Austin Matthews, back to my earlier point, is the only one to solve them with 2 goals, where we also see Wayne Simmons get that milestone with the 500th career point. We see Joe Thornton get an assist and really get Maple Leafs Nation believing in him. And we see Brendan Gallagher score for Montreal and really just piss off the Leaf fans a little bit.
Well, my prediction, not going to go that detailed. I've got 5-3. I think that the goalies, I know they're Freddie Anderson and Carey Price, two really good goaltenders. Carey Price is a great goaltender. But I think that they're going to come out a bit rusty. It's the first game of the season. I think the shooters will have the advantage in this game. 5-3, Toronto Maple Leafs. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. And there's a question, I found it. Lencho says, what if the Habs win? Should we be concerned? And I'm just going to say this. Yeah, it's a shortened 50-game season, and every game matters more, but don't get concerned unless we lose 7-0. Like, don't get concerned if we just lose a tight game. It is one game, one out of 10 matchups against this team. We'll be seeing this team again, and maybe even in the playoffs. Imagine a Montreal-Toronto playoff series. What do you guys think?
I think to echo my previous sentiment, you also have to look at how they lose, as Jake just mentioned. If it's a lopsided game and Toronto comes out completely flat, that's more cause for concern. But if Carey Price comes out and plays out of this world and steals the game for them, there's nothing the team could have done, especially if Toronto does play a more dominant game. Sometimes the goalie can steal one. And if that's the case, I don't think you put as much concern in it. But if Toronto comes out flat and for a very close to must-win season opener, at least from a fan perspective, and can't get themselves going for that, then I think you worry about the tone that sets for the rest of the season. So I think it ultimately comes down to how Toronto plays, and basically, if they do lose the game, what was the cause of it?
Clarky?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I just wanted to check the lines here on my app, and the game's actually by Vegas pretty close. So I think that at the end of the day, we all want the Leafs to win, but it could go the other way. Montreal is gonna come out hungry. Montreal is gonna come out wanting it. You see some of their fans in here, Kamar saying "Go Habs, go!" They're diehards just like us, and they got a lot of noise up in Montreal. A lot of people sitting at home. People want to see their hockey team win, especially this year. I think there's going to be extra pressure, so I think both teams are going to come out close. But if the Leafs do lose, if it's a close loss, you have to learn from it. You have to move forward, though. So remains to be seen, but I am excited.
On a side note, because none of us touched on this in the predictions, and I've yet to see anyone else, could you see this game going to overtime or a shootout?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's possible. Anytime these two teams play against each other, it's possible to go to overtime. It happens so frequently.
Yeah, I could go to overtime. I mean, who do you think takes it in a shootout, though?
I think Toronto should, but based off of our shootout record last year and the fact that they have Carey Price in that, I'm going to say Montreal wins in a shootout.
I say, yeah, the trend continues. Shootouts are Toronto's kryptonite, and they don't show up, and Montreal pulls through if it goes to a shootout.
What do you think, Clark?
Yeah, I'd say Montreal. I think the Leafs got to kill this game early. I think the Leafs got to get a big lead, even in the second, but I don't like a close game going in the end of the third overtime. I'd get nervous if I were a Leaf fan, and I am, so.
And I like what Dan just did as well, thanking you for the shout-out, because I think that really does exemplify that every hockey fan they're diehard for the teams. Hop fans are the same way. As much as there's hate and a rivalry between the two fan bases, you have to recognize the similarities as well. That both fan bases are extremely passionate, and some of the most diehard fan bases you'll see in the league.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, on this channel, we welcome fans from every team, whether you're a Canadiens fan, a Bruins fan, or a St. Louis Blues fan, even a Kraken fan. We welcome all fans on here. We just want to talk hockey. We're not biased. I mean, we know that we have greatness in Austin Matthews, and that's why I predicted him to win the Rocket Richard Trophy this year. But, I mean, the Canadiens this Canadian division, it's gonna be a good matchup this year.
I question, maybe we are a tad biased. I mean, two of you did say that Austin Matthews was a sure thing for the Rocket.
I didn't say he's a shit thing. I said he's gonna be competing for it. I think that he will win it this year. I think he's got that extra fire under him this year after being robbed of a 50-goal season.
I'm curious to see of Leaf fans, Habs fans, everyone in the comments, if you agree or disagree on what you think, even the odds, or if Austin Matthews, a yes or no could suffice, can win the Rocket this year. And just see what the general sentiment is. I really am curious to know.
I think that, who knows, but I think that you're kind of underestimating a bit. Your bold prediction was that Matthews is going to surpass Ovi. I think we all know that's coming. Ovi's 35. So if your bold prediction's that, my bold prediction's Matthew gets 200 goals. Like, come on. I think you're downplaying him a bit. I don't think he's a sure thing, but top 3 for betting.
I mean, you have to look at the division, though. That's part of the reason I think Nathan McGinnon could just rack up points this year, because he is playing in a weaker division.
Well, we got some comments here. The most important thing to remember, guys, is we get to watch hockey. Yes, it's back tomorrow. And I see a lot of new names on this channel, a lot of Montreal fans. They've been coming in here the last couple shows. Come on here tomorrow night after the game. I will be doing a post-game show at some point. Post-game show, win or lose. If the Maple Leafs lose 10-0, I'll come on here and you can laugh at me. You can just laugh at me. I'll be really pissed off. If the Maple Leafs win 10-0, I still want you to come here and I can laugh at you. It's all fun and games here.
And if we're allowed to say a hot take in the comments of the day, I've definitely just found one. That Josh Anderson will have more goals than Austin Matthews. If that ever happens, I will pay every single one of these people in this comments $500 each.
Okay.
I don't think season-ending injury. You never know.
So I'm not going to go out there and say that, but I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. If you're new to this channel, or if you're just an avid viewer, always here, make sure you smash the like button and hit the notification bell. You'll be notified every time we are live here on Maple Leafs Media. Yesterday, we had Matt Stajan on. That was extremely fun. Looking to have more players on in the future, and it's something that I love to do, doing interviews with players, and then I just love bringing you as much Maple Leafs content as possible, and with stuff going on around the league as well.
Yeah, just shout out Jake, keep up the good work. We all appreciate you running these lives and doing your videos, Love the channel.
I mean, I'm ready to get out of here, but I have these packs of hockey cards, and if I might do a giveaway here. I have a Tuesday night trivia ready, so I'm going to open these, and we'll see what I get.
Let's make it more interesting, actually. Why don't we see who wins the trivia first, and then they get to see you open the packs and see if there's anything interesting in them.
Alrighty. So tonight's Tuesday night trivia question of the week is: what team did the Maple Leafs win their last Stanley Cup against back in 1967? First one to get it right will have their comment put up here, and they'll win this prize, even if you don't want it. Waiting.
Rangers only.
Oh, it's Frangie, Montreal. So let's see what I got here in these packs.
Let's see if you got anything good for Frangie.
There's nothing in that one. And there's nothing in this one. So there actually wasn't anything in here, but I mean, I'll just send you all these if you want them. I'll send you all of them if you want them. There's no autograph or anything in there. I thought there would be, but you can have all of them. You can have all of them, Frangie. Just shoot me a message on Maple Leafs Media Instagram or Facebook, and I'll send you the whole pack. You can enjoy them. But everyone, let's see what everyone says here. Boston, no. Montreal, Habs. So John Howard says, yeah, Clarky, Leafs will kick butt. I've got a clip to get you hyped up for tomorrow's matchup. Before we do that, I just want to get everyone's final words to close out this show. It's been fun. Rib, what do you have to say for our viewers of Maple Leafs Media?
I'd love to see how our viewer base is growing. It really has been, it makes it way more fun for all of us, and I think everyone can attest to this. As we've seen the viewer count grow and we see more people engaged on a weekly basis, it really does make us look even more forward to the show and enjoying it. Obviously, for Jake, he's on here grinding every day and putting out videos and different content. And for Clarky and I, it's not as much involved, but we really do enjoy coming on these shows and engaging with all of you and having our hockey debates and discussions. We get to see everything from Leafs fan to Habs fans and everything all in between. People from Sweden, Australia. Hockey really is growing as an international game. And I really enjoy to be a part of this, and thankful to all our fans that keep coming back every week to support us, and continue to smash that like button and subscribe, and we'll keep coming back and giving you good content.
Clarky.
Yeah, first I just want to say thank you for everyone commenting, watching tonight, liking the video, subscribing. And the Habs fans too, Leafs fans, we appreciate everyone coming on. You know, it's great to have different opinions, and we share them, we talk about them. We try to get as many comments as possible. We try to get what you're saying, your points in, so everyone has a voice. I think that's key, is that this show, we know we're here, and our whole thing is to interact with you guys. You know, we're not Sportsnet, we're not TSN, we're not coming on and we have an agenda and we're going to hit it and you're going to listen to us the whole time. This is about you guys coming on, sharing your opinion, and we can all have debates together. So I love doing that. I know the guys above me love doing that, and hopefully you guys love doing that. So that, also want to say, you know, thank you, Jake. You don't get paid for this. You work your butt off every day. You had Staging on the other night. You had Buron on. You had Kopkin on. I can't say his name, but you've had so many NHLers on. You've done a countdown from like 50 players. So that's crazy, man. You're crazy, but you're inspiring, and, you know, keep doing what you're doing, and we're all going to be here listening. And last but not least, hockey's back, and that's the most important thing. We're all fans. At the end of the day, hockey's back, and I know I'm excited. I know you all are excited. So let's go. Let's get the season started, and I'll definitely be here tomorrow night listening or on the show after the game.
Well, guys, thank you both for your nice words. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to come on here. I know you guys have work. You guys are busy. We are just normal people. We have lives as well. We're Maple Leafs fans talking about the Maple Leafs with other Maple Leafs fans. That's what Maple Leafs Media is all about. That's the vision for this. And we just want to keep growing, keep doing more shows. We want to keep expanding to other social media networks, do as much as we can, bring you as much content as we can, staying consistently consistent. So make sure you stay tuned, because I said that we would have 3 nights straight live shows. So yesterday was Matt Stajan's interview. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It was extremely fun for me to do that. Tonight we had Leafs Talk Live with the boys, the regular crew. Tomorrow night, post-game show, Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm super, super excited. So I'm going to show a little clip to get you guys hyped up for tomorrow's game. Thank you all for watching this. Well, thank you all for staying with us for the last hour and 15 minutes. Until next time.
Short-handed. Riley again. Matthews again. Snaps a shot. He scores.